welcome. Tonight, a big sigh of relief as the United Kingdom court rules in favor of Nigeria in the $11.5 billion arbitration award enforcement suit by the Process and Industrial Developments Limited. Supreme Court reserves judgment in the appeals by the presidential candidates of the PDP and Labour Party against the judgment affirming the victory of President Tinubu in the 2023 presidential election dismisses appeal by 8 p.m. And the president expresses optimism that Nigeria can achieve a $1 trillion economy by 2026 through increased collaboration with the private sector.
On business news tonight, Nigeria to become one of the top 5 economies in the world by the year 2075, according to latest research reports by global investment bank Goldman Sachs.
On sports news tonight, Super Falcons of Nigeria arrives in Addis Ababa as the 3-time African champions kick off their 2024 Olympic qualification campaign against Ethiopia on Wednesday.
And in international news from London, Israel's military says it has mounted more limited ground raids into Gaza to attack Hamas and find information about the hostages that are being held.
The judiciary is top on the news today, and we begin in the nation's capital, where the Supreme Court has reserved judgment in the appeal by PDP and Labour Party presidential candidates, Mr. Atiku Abubakar and Mr. Peter Obi, as well as their parties, against the court judgment which affirmed the victory of President Bola Tinubu in the 2023 presidential election. A 7-member panel of the court, led by Justice John Okoro, made the announcement after the counsel to the parties adopted their briefs of arguments and made final submissions. The Apex Court also dismissed the appeal by the Allied People's Movement. Our correspondent, Emanuela Ekele, reports.
The Supreme Court of Nigeria is buzzing with anticipation as it prepares to consider the appeals brought before by Atiku Abubakar and the People's Democratic Party, Peter Obi and Labour Party, and the Allied People's Movement. These parties are challenging the verdict of the Presidential Election Petition Court, which upheld President Bola Tinubu's triumph in the recent presidential election. The security measures are notably stringent, with thorough checks conducted on all individuals entering the courtroom. Inside, senior lawyers from the involved parties engage in friendly exchanges. High-ranking government officials and national chairmen of the Labour Party and the All Progressive Congress are also present. The 7-member panel, led by Justice Iyango Okoro, arrives and proceeds to address the appeal on the motion to introduce fresh evidence presented by the People's Democratic Party and its candidates. During the proceedings, counsel to Atiku, Mr. Chris Uche, underscores the gravity and constitutional significance of the issues concerning President Tinubu's certificate. He emphasizes that the Supreme Court bears the responsibility to examine this matter and reach a verdict. He further elaborates that Section 233 of the Constitution empowers the court to assess the legitimacy of an individual's election. The respondents urged the court to reject Atiku's application on the grounds that the fresh evidence was inadmissible. They pointed out that Atiku could not introduce a document into the Supreme Court without first submitting it at the trial court. Mr. Wale Olanipekun, counsel to President Tinubu, emphasized that the 180-day rule was clear and could not be altered. He added that the court must interpret the law as it stands. Next on the docket was the appeal of the Labour Party and its presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, contesting President Tinubu's election. While presenting their written briefs, the appellant's counsel, Levi Uzuaku, requested the court to grant the appeal and provide the requested reliefs. Some of the issues raised by the Labour Party include Tinubu's failure to secure 25% of the votes in the Federal Capital Territory and his forfeiture of $460,000 in the United States. They also challenged INEC's failure to electronically transmit election results. The Supreme Court also dismissed the appeal of the Allied People's Movement, APM, following the withdrawal by the counsel, Mr. Machuku Ume. The APM was encouraged to withdraw the appeal since they did not have specific prayers for determination, and the respondents did not object to the withdrawal. Following the arguments of the People's Democratic Party and the Labour Party challenging the victory of President Bola Tinubu at the February 25th general election, the Supreme Court has reserved judgment to a date that will be communicated to other parties involved. From the Supreme Court, Emanuela Ekele, Channels Television News.
And outside the shores of the country, the commercial courts of England and Wales has ruled in favour of Nigeria in the enforcement of an $11 billion Process and Industrial Developments Limited P&ID arbitration award. Justice Robin Knowles handed down the judgment physically in open court and electronically by email to the parties today. By the judgment handed down, Nigeria succeeded in stopping the enforcement of the award, which was initially in favour of P&ID. Our London correspondent, Juliana Lainka, has more.
Well, a campaign of bribery and deception that's lasted more than 10 years has finally come to a head today following the ruling by Judge Robin Knowles of the Business and Property Court of England and Wales. The UK judge dismissed the $11.5 billion arbitrary judgment against Nigeria by a little-known company called Process and Industry Development. P&ID is based in the British Virgin Islands, and they claim that Nigeria violated terms of its agreement by failing to provide gas for a power plant it wanted to build for the country. Now, as I said, this case is more than 10 years old and has spanned more than 3 government administrations. It started with the late President Umaru Yar'Adua, who, according to P&ID, contracted them to build this processing plant. The contract appeared to have disappeared under the administration of President Goodluck Jonathan, but he did agree to pay a certain amount out of court. This out-of-court settlement was then passed on to President Muhammadu Buhari, who said he was unable to make the payment. After years of being embroiled in a fight with P&ID, the case was brought in 2017 here to the Business and Property Courts of England and Wales. It was there that the judge awarded the firm $6.6 billion, representing a third of Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves. Due to the huge amount over several years, there were concerns that Nigeria's overseas assets, including properties owned in Europe, could have been seized by what we now know is a sham firm.
Well, I think the judgment itself is a welcome one. It tells that after a long time, you can still get justice if you fight for it, if you follow it, if you commit to it. But on the other hand, it says there's a need for, well, everyone to take up arms and sit down and really do what they need to do when they have contracts and agreements to attend to. There's a need for greater diligence amongst parties. If you don't understand the terms of an agreement, don't sign them. If things look unclear to you, be careful. Ultimately, just says to everyone, you've got to be careful going forward every time. The fact that Nigeria's integrity too was also involved, it called to question the internal procedures or processes that we have and that we operate in Nigeria. So it was not just about the money. It was much more than that. Our integrity, our international reputation was at stake. So it was a lot more than money.
Considering the huge amounts of money involved, it goes without saying that today's ruling is indeed historic for Nigeria. But most importantly, it does cast a shadow over sham international firms that are coming into the country, posing as foreign direct investors. Juliana Olayinka reporting for Channels Television News in central London.
Meanwhile, the UK court in its verdict today declared that it did not find any merit in the charges of bribery levelled against Mr. Olasupo Sasore, a former Attorney General of Lagos State who was representing Nigeria in the arbitration Mr. Shashere had been accused of obstructing Nigeria's legal proceedings against the British Virgin Islands-based company. He faced allegations of negligence, inadequate due diligence in handling the case, with claims that he had inadequately defended Nigeria's interests. In his defense, Mr. Shashere maintained that he had done everything within his power to secure the best outcome for the country. Well, still staying with the UK court judgment, the president has applauded the decision, awarding a landmark victory to the federal government against P&ID. In a statement, President Bola Tinubu commends the UK court for prioritising the merits of the case above all other considerations. He maintains that by the judgment, nation-states will no longer be held hostage by economic conspiracies between private firms and corrupt officials who conspire against the nations they swear to defend and protect. In the president's words, today's victory is not for Nigeria alone. It is a victory for our long-exploited continent and for the developing world at large, which has for too long been on the receiving end of unjust economic malpractice and overt exploitation. He notes that the country is appreciative of the efforts of the defense team, as well as the role of the Federal Ministry of Justice and the Office of the Attorney General in the process of defending Nigeria's interests in the case. Well, for more on this landmark judgment, we're now being joined by a senior advocate of Nigeria in our studio here in Lagos, Mr. Wahab Shitu. Thank you for joining us on the program.
My pleasure being here.
Did you anticipate this judgment in the UK court on P&ID success for Nigeria?
It is a major success for Nigeria, coming especially on the heels of the meeting of the National Economic Summit Group. You will recall that if this award had not been set aside, it indeed portends grave dangers for the health of the nation's economy. We are talking of $11 billion as at the date of this judgment. If that had been upheld, you can imagine the colossal effect that will have on our economy, particularly on the efforts of this government. So I congratulate this government, because in this portends a very good sign. The international community will now begin to look at Nigeria in favorable light, because the UK Commercial Court has stated it clearly that the P&ID agreement was induced by fraud. I mean, the arbitral award was induced by fraud and contrary to public policy. And you will see that this is a judgment that was delivered in the UK, and that was significant. The entire world is watching. It's going to really post very positive signals for the health of the Nigerian economy. And as such, it also shows that African countries being led by Nigeria can no longer be taken for a ride.
But another question also is, I mean, how did we get here? Fraud, contrary to public policy. What do we need to do to prevent such actions? Because we will be having these contracts. We are still having these contracts with foreigners. Will they be afraid? Will the international arbitration, also be afraid to do business with Nigeria? Or
I think we must get our ass together as a country, strengthen our institutions in order to prevent incidents of corruption. We need to also have a regime of consequences for criminal infractions. We must put a law and order regime in place, and we must prioritize adherence to rule of law and best practices in the conduct of government affairs. We should walk the talk in terms of fight against corruption. All those who are involved in putting Nigeria into this kind of situation, which we don't really live now, there should just be consequences after this. We should take a closer look at that judgment and see elements within and outside who collaborated in putting Nigeria into this kind of mess.
We're going on break shortly.
Yes.
In perhaps 2 seconds, if that's even possible, Is there an appeal? What's available for P&ID?
Well, now there will be a further hearing to determine cost. Because the issue, cost normally follows victory. So the hearing has to cost, because P&ID will have to pay enormous cost for this loss. I congratulate Nigerians. I congratulate President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. I congratulate there's a synergy, and that must not be lost. The Federal Minister of Justice, the Office of Attorney General, the CBA, the Petroleum Resources Ministry, and all agencies of government collaborated in ensuring this victory. So there's beauty in synergy. So the lesson here is that rather than have an interagency rivalry, federal government agencies should collaborate, to work together in harmony and build a synergy for the progress of Nigeria.
Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Wahab Shittu, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us on the news at 10.
It's a pleasure.
In part two, after the break, the president expresses optimism that Nigeria can achieve a $1 trillion economy by 2026 through increased collaboration with the private sector. That's in a moment. You stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. A big sigh of relief as the United Kingdom court rules in favour of Nigeria in the $11.5 billion arbitration award enforcement suit by the Process and Industrial Developments Limited. Supreme Court reserves judgment in the appeals by the presidential candidates of the PDP and Labour Party against the judgment affirming the victory of President Tinubu in the 2023 presidential election, dismisses appeal by APM. The president expresses optimism that Nigeria can achieve a $1 trillion economy by 2026 through increased collaboration with the private sector. And Israel's military says it has mounted more limited ground raids into Gaza to attack Hamas and find information about hostages being held. The president is optimistic that the federal government can achieve a $1 trillion economy by 2026 by fostering a highly collaborative relationship with the private sector. President Bola Tinubu stated this at the 29th Nigerian Economic Summit, which opened in Abuja today. Our correspondent Victoria Longjohn reports.
The National Economic Summit, a yearly gathering of government representatives and high-level private sector leaders, is on again for the 29th edition. It's a platform to dialogue on Nigeria's economic management. This year's edition, with the theme, Pathways to Sustainable Economic Transformation and Inclusion, comes at a time the nation grapples with numerous challenges and the need for urgent reforms. Representatives of the National Economic Summit Group highlight necessary steps to kickstart Nigeria's journey to economic transformation.
A macroeconomic stabilization program supported by an aggressively scaled national security effort to halt all forms of syndicated and organized crime around crude oil and solid minerals.
Without a willing government at the center of the events, this will not be possible. Today, Mr. President, you sit at the helm of affairs as a willing reformer, sir, and we believe that our nation can get to a $4 trillion economy by the year 2035.
The event was declared open by President Bola Tinubu, who acknowledged the economic challenges currently faced by Nigerians. He outlines the plans by his administration to bring a solution to these challenges.
Consistent with our commitment to enshrine fairness and the rule of law in our country, this government will uphold the sanctity of every legitimate contract, specifically as it relates to foreign exchange obligations of the government. All the forward contracts that the government has entered into will be honored. The framework has been put in place to ensure that these obligations are met in due course. My government is not blind to the challenges several of you are facing in the financial markets. I can only allay these concerns by revealing that we have a good line of sight for the additional foreign exchange liquidity that is required to restore market confidence. And we are going to do that. I would like to charge you, the captains of industry here present, to commit yourself and redouble your effort to our vision of a renewed hope.
Relatedly, the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Atiku Bagudu, says the ministry has commenced the process of the review of the National Development Plan.
We are faithfully committed to the implementation of plans, including the Agenda 2050, because it is an irreducible minimum of commitment to some consensus by all, especially in a federal setup like Nigeria, which you have always believed, but which you have always led that should be recognized as such.
A panel session follows, where speakers deliberate on issues like foreign exchange, government's plan for investment and growth, food security, amongst others. The National Economic Summit, organized in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, through impactful dialogue, seeks to inspire confidence in the Nigerian economy to drive job creation and fulfill Nigeria's economic potential on the global stage. Victoria Longjohn for Channels Television News.
And we have more stories from our studios in Abuja. Here's Nelta Egbe. Hi, Nelta.
Hello, Millicent. Thank you, and welcome to the Abuja studios. And we continue with the President's efforts towards revamping the nation's economy. In line with this, President Tinubu has approved 2 executive orders that will help to boost the supply of foreign exchange in the country and stabilize the naira. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, stated this after the Federal Executive Council meeting. Our correspondent, Lamre Lasisi, reports on the resolutions or other resolutions taken at the council meeting.
President Bola Tinubu chairing the 3rd Federal Executive Council meeting under his administration. Speaking with journalists afterwards, the Minister of Finance, alongside other ministers, outlined decisions taken during the meeting, one of which is the approval of $3.45 billion concessional and zero-interest loans from the World Bank and the International Development Association.
The projects that were approved for funding in the power sector and then the renewable energy sector, there was a funding for states for resource mobilization program to help them with their internally generated revenue efforts.
He also touched on the import of 2 executive orders signed by the president.
In an effort to boost the supply of foreign exchange to the formal market, to the money supply and reserves, of course, in an effort to stabilize the currency and improve the workings of the market as a whole and make foreign currency available to importers and other eligible users. The cash that is outside the system would now have a window within which that cash could be deposited.
The Council also approved a draft policy to guide the development of the solid mineral sector and to boost security, as well as an approval to create the Humanitarian and Poverty Alleviation Trust Fund.
Every year, we hope to be able to raise at least $5 billion within this fund, and this is from the various sources that I've mentioned and even more.
Council also approved the funding of training and empowerment of adolescent girls in 18 participating states in the country. From what we're told, this is in line with government's agenda to reduce the number of out-of-school children across Nigeria. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasese for Channels Television News.
And in other stories, men of the Gombe State Command of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps have paraded at least 76 persons for alleged involvement in same-sex relationship. The police spokesperson in the state, Mr. Buhari Saad, said that the suspects organized same-sex birthday parties and wedding ceremonies. The suspects were paraded at the command's headquarters in Gombe, the state capital. And still to come on the news at 10, Nigeria to become one of the top 5 economies in the world by 2075. That's according to the latest report by the global investment bank, Goldman Sachs. That's on Business News. Join us again. Welcome back to Education Matters outside the shores of the country in Benin Republic, where founder and president of the Matriarch Foundation, Chief Bintu Fatima Tinubu, has been conferred with an honorary doctorate award from the Institute de Formation Advanced in Fatou University in Benin. The Iyalode of Lagos, alongside other Nigerians, bagged a Doctor of Philosophy in Community and Human Development honoris causa. A champion of women's rights, the accomplished entrepreneur was awarded with the honor based on her contributions and business growth and entrepreneurship in Nigeria and beyond.
Students, government officials from different parts of the continent, and captains of industries are here for the 7th Convocation and Matriculation Award Ceremony of the Institut de Formation Advanced, Fatou University, Benin. One of the awardees is the Iyalode of Lagos, Chief Mrs. Bintu Fatima Tinubu, who arrives for the day's event. The Vice-Chancellor, Professor Eze Nwaba, has a message for the graduates, while the keynote speaker, Professor Abiola Amuda Kanike, delivers a lecture on navigating the African educational system.
Africa should take the lead, expand the scope of video conferencing. Lectures should be delivered stress-free, as if you are present in the lecture room, and all should be stress-free.
This university is experiencing an upsurge in students' enrollment. This is because of her capacity and competency. I hereby authorize that she is decorated.
Then comes the conferment.
This award is for you.
With the award, Chief Bintu Fatima renews her unwavering commitment to bridging the gap in education.
For me, this award is very symbolic, both personally and professionally. It will afford me opportunity in contributing my own quota with a knock-on effort growing economic power, individual and nation as a whole.
Other award recipients, including the Special Advisor to the Imo State Governor, Honorable Vitalis Onoha, say they are motivated to keep giving back to the society.
To whom much is given, much is expected. It's just for me to go back to the society, to add in greater values to my society, ranging from business to human development to politics, even to the general society as a whole.
Chief Bintu Fatima Tinubu's impact on the society transcends her unwavering dedication to empowering them and fostering social change. She has held various influential positions. Her indomitable spirit led her to accept a groundbreaking role as the inaugural female secretary at Guinness Nigeria PLC, an achievement that marked a turning point in her career and set the stage for even greater accomplishments over the years.
That's it from the Abuja studios. Back to you, Millicent.
The online sports betting industry in Nigeria is a notch higher with the launch of a new betting platform known as BetBaba. The management says the platform offers unique features and betting experience for customers who visit it, including seamless registration, edit bet, fastest payout, top-notch risk management facility, and much more.
Welcome to a new era of online gaming. They say it's sports betting at its finest, based on what's on offer. All that's required, according to the management, is a visit to www.betbaba.ng, and the rest is history.
From the registration form, once you're done and you hit the button register, then you see registration complete, and then all you have to do is claim your bonus. If you go ahead and, for instance, deposit 10,000 naira, immediately you register. On top of the 10,000 naira, we will be giving you 15,000 naira as bonus monies.
Nigeria's youthful and growing population presents some attractions which they are leveraging with security, quality, and engagement in mind.
Baba to our customer is going to be a unique experience. We are going to offer the latest technology, innovation, and the fastest payout.
Quantity is not important, that will come, but for us, compromise of quality, that can't happen. And we want people to bet socially and responsibly and help them, you know. And we want to make a difference in an experience.
With the unveiling finally done, the management says game's on.
Our website again is www.betbaba.ng, and we are live now. You can register, place your bets, win and get paid. With BetBaba, now you be boss.
Now customers would expect all the offerings as promised by BetBaba to come their reality.
Another game, another win.
It's now time for business news. Here's Anne Wilder. Thanks a lot, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. Nigeria will become one of the top 5 economies in the world by the year 2075. Well, that's according to latest report by U.S. global investment banking giant Goldman Sachs. In one of its research reports titled The Path to 2075, the investment bank noted that Nigeria is set to become one of the top economies in the next 52 years, standing only behind China, India, the United States, and Indonesia. That report also mentions that Nigeria is positioned to play a key role in the global economy because of its expanding population, wealth of natural resources, booming tech sector, and dedication to economic change. With a current GDP of $477 billion, Nigeria is Africa's largest economy. It is also poised for rapid growth. We head to the market now. It began the 4th trading week in the month of October with more than 21 billion naira knocked off from the total value of listed equities today. John Mekwa has the details.
Well, thank you so much. And unfortunately, the market is still in the red territory, but it might be a good time for you to just jump on. So the all-share index today went down 0.06%, even though we're still at 66,876.92. Market cap at 36.742 trillion naira. Let's look at the market indices, beginning with the top gainers. Thomas White Limited, the pioneer paper conversion and printing company, they closed last week as top gainers and started this week again after adding 9.92% and closed at 3.99 naira. On the flip side, remember VFD Group? Well, they listed on the NGX about a month ago. Today, they're on the red. They shed 9.99% to close at 242 naira 40 kobo. However, well, these are not strong enough to really move the market. Dangote Sugar is a major market mover for today. It lost 2 naira 50 kobo to close at 61 naira, and that's after it moved around 141 million naira around the market. So this is why the market is in the red. But there's hope because it's a positive market breadth. Perhaps Tuesday will close in the positive. But for today, it's the bear.
And that's Business News. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Millicent. Welcome back. The International Committee of the Red Cross has confirmed the release of 2 more hostages taken captive from Israel by Hamas. Here's Simon Pussy with more international stories.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Israel's military says it has mounted more limited ground raids into Gaza to attack Hamas and find information about hostages being held. Meanwhile, the Israeli bombing of Gaza continues. The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza says 436 people have been killed in just the past 24 hours. Israel says it's targeting Hamas infrastructure, including tunnels, with 320 targets hit in a day. Here, Israel's military spokesman saying its ground forces had mounted limited raids into the Gaza Strip overnight. At the same time, more aid is arriving, here being sorted at Red Crescent storage facilities in Khan Yunis. However, still very limited amounts are being allowed into Gaza. The European Union Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell has joined calls for a pause in the conflict between Israel and Palestinian militants Hamas to let more aid supplies into Gaza.
The first day, 20 trucks were allowed to come in. 20. Yesterday, were about 20 more. But in normal time, without war, 100 trucks enter into Gaza every day. So it's clear that 20 is not enough.
Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan has been charged in an Official Secrets Act case. That's according to his party. The charge is related to a classified cable sent to Islamabad by Pakistan's ambassador in Washington early last year, which Khan is accused of making public. A special court has indicted the 71-year-old and his former foreign minister. It's another blow for the jailed former cricket star ahead of a general election expected to be held in January. Argentina's economy minister Sergio Massa has defied expectations by winning more than 36% of the vote, putting him on course for a runoff contest with the far-right candidate Javier Milei. With most ballots now counted, no candidate has received more than 45% of votes, the threshold to be elected. Many pollsters believed voters would punish Mr. Massa for presiding over a financial crisis. Inflation in Argentina is nearing 140%. Argentines will have to choose between the two in a follow-up vote scheduled for the 19th of November. Flooding from Storm Babette could last for days, that's according to the Environment Agency, after the UK was lashed with rain and winds over the weekend. Across England, 108 flood warnings are in place, including in the East Midlands and along the River Severn. 4 people are now known to have died in the floods, while residents of hundreds of homes have been evacuated. Some Brecon residents could be permanently removed from their homes due to the flooding. Here, a pair of dogs filmed running through dense sea foam in Northumberland. So far, around 1,250 properties in England have been flooded. Spain has seized gold artefacts valued at €60 million stolen from Ukraine after thieves were caught trying to sell them in Madrid. The 11 pieces from the Scythian culture, which were exhibited in a Kyiv museum between 2009 and 2013, were smuggled out of Ukraine in 2016, police said in a statement. The pieces had forged documents to make it look as if they belonged to the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. The pieces are being studied at the Spanish National Archaeological Museum and the Institute of Cultural Heritage of Spain. And a northern French farmer has surprised his partner by asking her hand in marriage by using his tractor to shape giant letters in a field which spell the age-old question, "Will you marry me?" The farmer had been preparing for the proposal for a year. Using a tractor and brush cutters, he wrote the 180-metre-long phrase in the 2-hectare field. Julien Theliez popped the question by inviting his partner of 8 years, Elodie, to take a walk into the field of flowers. As they arrived, a man flew a drone, showing Elodie the surprise on the remote control screen. Then Theliez got on one knee and asked the question, to which Elodie said yes. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Super Falcons Zoom-based players and technical crew have arrived in Addis Ababa ahead of Wednesday's 2024 Olympic qualifier against Ethiopia at the Abebe Bikila Stadium. The 3-time African champions will be without midfielder Regina Otu, who missed the FIFA Women's World Cup finals in Australia and New Zealand and defender Osinachi Ohale and Christy Uchebe have been ruled out of the encounter. Google today honored the late Super Eagles forward Rashidi Yekini with a doodle on what would have been his 60th birthday. The Google doodle recreates Yekini's celebration during the 1994 World Cup, and according to Google, many consider it as one of the most iconic goal celebrations in football history, and it served as inspiration for today's doodle artwork. And that's it on sports. Back to you.
Thanks, Chris. And the main news again. A United Kingdom court today ruled in favor of Nigeria in the $11.5 billion arbitration award enforcement suit filed by the Process and Industrial Developments Limited. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.